The Christian notion of freedom or liberty might seem backwards to us at first because it includes the idea of God and a connection to God as our sovereign, king, lord, or master, and us as the subjects or even slaves. We tend to think of liberty in terms of Western political freedom, or what we might call a freedom from. That means we have freedom from any authority that would tell us what to do. We are free from those things that would inhibit us or constrain us. But the Christian idea of liberty is different than that because it has this idea of connection to God by necessity. Because at the end of the day, Christianity is about a connection to God, who is our sovereign. We are not free from things. We are free for things. The idea of liberty with Christianity is different because in our connection to God, He gives us a certain strength or capacity to do new things that otherwise we would not be able to do. And therein is our freedom. We are free for His cause. We are free for the things that He wants us to do. And as He guides us as our Lord and Master, we follow Him. And we are disciplined in His regimen so that we can build that capacity by His grace and by His power. Jesus talks in terms of slavery in a few different places. A certain metaphor is found in Matthew chapter 11. He says there, "Take my yoke upon you, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." A yoke was a wooden beam that would go across the shoulders of horses, or in bad circumstances, men or women, tied with leather straps to some sort of a burden, usually a plow, behind it. And the yoke would be used to pull that burden. And Jesus says, if you are one of my disciples, if you are a follower of me, then you have a yoke. I am your master, and you are my subject or slave. But he also says that his yoke is different. It's easy and it's light. Jesus was talking in terms of contrast from the Jewish religious leaders of the day. Those leaders had a different sort of yoke that they were putting on the people. They had lots of different rules they said you had to follow. You had to dress a certain way. You had to eat a certain way. You had to work a certain way. You had to celebrate or play a certain way. You even had to go to church or synagogue in a certain way and certainly do the moral laws a certain way. And Jesus saw all of this and said, wow, what a bummer. What a heavy yoke you are putting on the people. How would they ever feel like God loved them or accepted them, or that you loved them or accepted them? Your yoke is heavy, but my yoke, my burden, is easy and it's light. We are Jesus' subjects or slaves, and he has a certain regimen that he wants us to follow. He wants to guide us. What is it that he wants us to follow? What capacity does he want us to build, and what newfound freedom through that capacity? It's simply this. Jesus wants us each and every day, moment by moment, to remember that he is good, that he is kind, that he is humble, and that he is gentle. He wants us to remember how much he loves us and that he gave himself on the cross for us. And when we do that, when we follow that regimen, we will have a newfound freedom. Because we know how much we're loved by him unconditionally, we won't fear what other people think, and we will be free to love them unconditionally. No matter who it is that we find ourselves in front of, no matter whose path we cross, everyone that we come into contact with, anyone that we come into contact with, we will have this newfound freedom to love because we have first been loved perfectly.